Welcome back to the 5th episode of the Happiness Safari podcast. Today on the podcast, I speak to Kaya, an incredible and inspirational human being I met in Kenya. Kaya is an energy healer and emotion code practitioner. She works a lot with emotions, enabling their expression and releasing the trapped emotions and blocked ones from the body's different systems. This brings the body back into balance, prevents dis-ease, and enables it to do what it does best, which is to heal itself. She's also an energy shifter. She intends to show you where your power lies and gives it back to you, should you be ready to reclaim it. I always like to learn and grow, and I'm very open to finding new ways of healing and exploring myself, my body, mind, and soul. So when I was in Kenya this year and I met Kaya, she helped me release some old energy blockages. It was a truly amazing experience. We will speak about that in the podcast as well. When I asked her to describe herself to you, she said, "Defining who I am and what I do feels limiting, as energy is ever expanding and changing, and energy is what we are." Believe me, you will feel during the interview that's exactly what she is, pure energy. From Kaya, you learn what the emotion code is and how you can release old negative emotions, how you can differentiate the ego from your intuition, how you can befriend the ego and accept it, how you can become the observer of your pain instead of reacting to it, and how you can deal with the fear of pain. My heart is so full of love after this conversation, and I hope yours will be too. Enjoy listening. Welcome. Today I'm so happy and delighted to have Kaya here on our podcast. I'm really so happy to see you all the way from Kenya. And yeah, how are you today?
Well, thank you. Lovely to see you. And thank you for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, you're welcome. So good to have you. So yeah, do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Who is Kaya and what is it, what you do?
So, my name is Kaya, or recently Kaya. This is a personal story which I'm happy to get into should anyone be interested. I'm an emotion code practitioner and energy intuitive. So I work especially with emotions and understanding the importance of feeling and how to release emotional baggage from the systems of the body. I'm currently based in Diani, which is on the coast of Kenya, and I am currently also moving towards starting our own healing center with my sister.
Wow, that's so cool. I cannot wait to actually visit you and see the place.
Yes, I hope you do come. I can't wait either for you guys to come.
Yeah, that'll be so nice. Yeah, and exactly. So we actually met when I was down in Kenya, and we've been working together as well. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think what you do is very inspirational. And I think there are lots of insights you can share with us. Should we go into the first question? Would be, what does happiness mean to you?
Happiness. What does happiness mean to me? Happiness is a feeling. It's an emotion, and it's generated by, for me personally, it's generated by who surrounds me. So as long as I'm surrounded by my close friends or family or soul family, that truly makes me happy, because I feel like I belong. I feel like I'm not alone in this world. I feel that we are in this together. And so being surrounded and connecting with and meeting soul family like yourself, I consider yourself part of my soul family. Mm-hmm. These things truly make me happy. And I feel that the universe is part of this journey with me. Yeah, so it's how I'm feeling that makes me happy, obviously, but it's especially who is around me which points the finger to my joy. Yeah. And then obviously it's things that I do in life which also make me happy.
Okay, yeah, but that's amazing. So you're basically saying it's all about connection, really, with people you either know already for a long time, or you just make this connection with, like, even strangers. But yeah, I'm feeling that.
And the connection with others is also a reflection of a connection to self, because as we move forward and we meet these different people coming into our lives, it's because we've understood a little part of ourselves, which we're able now to see that reflection in the other, and then we feel that connection.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so then you already said there are obviously also things you do to be happy, or things you experience that make you happy. What would that be?
Things that make me happy. I love being of service to others. So in whatever way, shape or form I am called to help, I enjoy doing that. I feel alive when I do that. I feel that is part of my reason of being on earth. I also, what makes me happy is feeling connected to self, understanding who I am, understanding what my purpose is here, what the meaning of my life is, because otherwise I can feel a little bit astray, especially in this crazy world that we're living in. So to understand the why and why we're here and who we are, which really are the same. And it keeps changing as time moves forward. We keep understanding deepest parts of self. And that also brings me great joy. And the spiritual practices, the tools around that, which comes with time, obviously. We don't know everything at once, but as we gradually increase our vibration, increase our frequency, different things come into our reality. And I'm starting to enjoy coming out of my comfort zone, which is very new for me.
Wow. That's very good. And would you say there was a point in your life where you kind of started that journey of like self-discovery, or was it always like that? Or was there something which kind of changed from, I don't know, when you were younger to a day where you were like, okay, now I'm kind of doing some soul searching?
I read a book in 2011 called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And this is by Sogyal Rinpoche. And I was drawn to this book, not knowing why. But once I started reading it, I did understand why. So fear of death was something that haunted me deeply. Mm-hmm. And to read these words put into a different way, understanding the perspective around Buddhism, understanding where suffering comes from, understanding who the Dalai Lama is, all of this, something resonated deeply in my soul. And I had to go and meet this Dalai Lama fellow. And so I quit my job at the time, and about 3 months later, I was in India in a place called McLeod-Ganj, which is where the Dalai Lama resides. Wow. And I started my soul searching from there. And and so this is also part of this connection to self, which comes back to the connection to the universe, connection to the others, connection to what is outside of self once we start to tune into what comes from within. One of my favorite sayings, phrases is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's all about perspective and it's all about narrative. Yeah. So once we can cue into that and truly understand what that means, we can start creating our own narrative. So we can look back in the past, see the fear that came up with the whole corona, all the suffering that came up with all of this new world we're entering into, but there's also a lot of beauty. And we concentrate on the beauty, that becomes the main focal point. Yeah, that's such a nice perspective, actually. And again, like changing the way we see things. Yes. And did you then actually ever meet or find the Dalai Lama? I did. I found the Dalai Lama. I met the Dalai Lama. Wow. I did not shake his hand or anything like that. It wasn't a personal encounter like this, but I went to one of his teachings and I saw him as he was welcoming. There's a spot up there where he welcomes the Tibetans who make it over the Himalayas. Mm-hmm. And I happened to be there one day when he was there also. So I got to him. Wow. And was there any special energy you felt from him? Or any special energy? There's something special that comes from his eyes because he does look at you directly. So there's something very present. And you definitely feel some sort of aura around him as a figure. So yes, definitely. Wow. And then basically, after that, you just started your journey on, I don't know, like... So it was a question of the spiritual path, exactly. That's when my spiritual path began with the question, who am I? And this question keeps changing. But also it's the understanding of this I and who this, because when I say I'm afraid of death, who is this I that is afraid of death? Is it my name? Is it my body? Is it my fingernail? Is it my blood? What is this I that is afraid of death? Yeah. And that questioning brought me somewhere which opened me up and allowed me to feel a bit more resonant with this earth.
Wow. And would you say you could let go of the fear of death?
I don't fear so much what's coming next. I don't fear so much the actual act of death. Where I am today in my journey is pain. Okay. So now I'm working on the fear of pain, yes, which is different, right? But the actual death itself, I feel, is just a portal into something new, into something different. We never inherently disappear. There's no destruction of that self, the awareness. So I'm no longer so much afraid of that. It's almost like I look forward to what's coming next. So that's done. But now it's the pain.
Oh no, and that definitely. But I think it's interesting because I feel lots of people actually fear pain, and then that's so connected to death because we think that before we die it is connected to pain, and we have to experience pain to die. But if you think you would just fall asleep when you're 120 years old, then there is no pain in dying. So it's more the suffering before that, if we have a disease or something like that, or even like an accident. But if the body actually gets injured, and then we feel pain.
Yeah. However, there are new studies, or there's new things coming up in the neuroscientific movement and neuroplasticity, where they go into the connections of our neural pathways. Differently will connect different neural pathways. You start to become a new person entirely. And I'm looking more into how that works with pain, right? Because if we can somehow wire our body not to feel pain so much, but maybe feel a tingling sensation or something different. I'm still playing around with all of this. Who knows? That could possibly be possible. Or my other thought was, the higher we vibrate, the higher we become clean within the self, the less dense we become, the lighter we become. I think we've experienced that a little bit in meditation. We can become really, really light. And maybe one day we will be able to embody this lightness all the time. And suddenly you don't feel pain. You don't feel scratches. You don't feel anything. It just is sensation. It's no longer labeled as pain. So let's see where we go.
Because I was just wondering, because you're practicing Vipassana. And in Vipassana, I guess we learn that everything passes and how to sit with the pain. So would you say that helps?
Yes, it definitely helps, because we become the observer of the pain. And that's a very nice question you've asked, because I feel that there's different nuances of pain. Sitting in a cross-legged position for hours on end, yes, can be painful, but it's a different pain to an open, gashed wound, which is sprouting blood. It's a different form of pain. But inherently speaking, it's the same wiring of the brain which is just feeling the sensation and being the observer of it, not being sucked into this feeling of pain. So it definitely helps. I guess the more we practice, the more we're able to withstand certain pains. I'll be sure to let you know when I come to that point.
Because I was like, is this just a new journey, or have you discovered already something else which helps you to, I guess, deal with the fear of pain?
So there's the emotion code, I will say, is helpful and has been helpful, just because a lot of trapped emotions around certain beliefs that we have, certain past experiences that we've had. So there's definitely something that happened within my life to make me fear pain, right? There's definitely something deep within me that's still waiting to be seen. And that's probably got to do something with an inner child wound or something. So with the emotion code or tools such as the emotion code, we can go backwards and try and identify this beginning and slowly start removing all those trapped emotions, slowly try and remove or figure out the different belief systems which are causing you to have this fear of pain. And it is a process. It is a journey. I work with something called EFT also, which is called Emotional Freedom Technique. You can look this up on YouTube. You already know what it is, absolutely. And I think that is awesome because it works on the energetic body as well. So yeah, just... and journaling is also great, just to be able to put your thoughts on paper and to see that helpful also.
Journaling is actually something I do myself, but it's also interesting because I feel all our interview guests so far mentioned journaling actually. But I wanted to ask you anyways, if you would like to share a little bit more about the emotion code, maybe briefly explain what it is.
Sure.
I find it so interesting, and I don't know how many people actually heard of it before.
Okay, sure. It's founded by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who is a chiropractor. He's still currently alive, so it's great to look him up. Also, you can get a bunch of information. He still does YouTube talks, etc. It's an energy healing tool to release emotional baggage. Emotional baggage comes also in the form of suppressed emotions or unprocessed emotions or emotions we did not want to look at that point in time because it was too painful. And all of these emotions get stuck within the systems of the body, get stuck within the body and the subconscious mind. And so what we do with this technique is we identify the different emotions which are stuck, at what age they were stuck. So we give a bit more of information for the client until some memory or some recollection comes up for that person. And that is usually what the issue is. So once that's been identified, once the person knows that that is part of their history, we can go ahead and remove it. It's as simple as that. It's non-invasive. It doesn't hurt at all. And what we're doing is slowly removing all of this emotional baggage, which are coming in the form of emotions, until we get to the core. And the core is who we really are. The core is where we create from the heart space, where we create from our true authentic being. But before we can get there is to really remove all of this stuff which we no longer need truly within us. So it's the whole healing process.
Yeah, and I think it's actually amazing. So I tried it myself several times with you, and I feel over the past months that maybe less triggered by things, or actually emotionally a little bit more stable. Like I don't have, like too many like lows, or like I'm more aware, and I'm like, oh yeah. So that's interesting. Like that's kind of gone, and that has changed. And so I think that's super.
Well, thank you for that feedback. It's always good to hear positive things like that. Yeah.
If anybody who's listening would like to look that up, exactly, we'll put that in the show notes as well. And I think you can find somebody also in your area to do it with you, to work with, or if you want to work with Kaya, that she does it online as well. So that works as well, because we are all connected energetically. So no matter if we are in the same room or not. So yeah. And then it's, the hardest question, I think, to answer for some people not. Let's see. But it's, what was the happiest moment in your life?
I'm going to go within for that one. Just take a second. What is coming up for me is we're moving into a whole new world. And again, it's all about now. Our perspective. We can either be in fear about what's about to come or what is coming or where we're living in, or we can be in total joy and alignment and trust in what is to come. And I would have had very much difficulty answering this question had it not been for where I currently am today in my life, thanks to, truthfully for me, it's been the emotion code. I used to be a very anxious person. And so I would like to say that the happiest moment of my life is when I could say that I'm no longer an anxious person. And that took a lot of time to heal. It took a lot of time to get to where I am, understanding the self, understanding my triggers, etc. But that truly, when I say it out loud, it truly makes me feel happy, just because I don't longer have all that heaviness and that depression and everything that comes with being an anxious person. Yeah. I could go on how that comes to be, but in a nutshell, that would be it.
Yeah. That's amazing. You can go on a little bit more if you want, but it's so it's like, not the moment for the moment, but it's the moment where something shifted in your life, basically, from kind of your old self to something new, and the new, more compelling future with less negative emotions, I guess. Just fear.
Yes. And so it wasn't a single point in time. It was more one day someone asked me something and I no longer had this trigger of anxiety, which I would have had prior. Yeah. And in that moment, I understood that something had shifted. And sometimes there's a little bit of doubt, I'm like still looking for that little bit of doubt. Has it really gone for life? But then we come back into this trusting of the universe, of this cycle that we're in, of this energy movement that we're in. And then I feel back in my body. And so with this anxiety, I never felt grounded. I never felt here. I never felt me, truly. I was somewhere out here somewhere, or coming from this perspective. And the more I discover this side of myself, which is less anxious or not anxious, the more I'm feeling whole. Yeah. I guess that was my real, one of my deep wounds, which is starting to move.
Yeah. And it's so interesting also because, I met you already, like more far into that journey. So when you speak about your old self, I sometimes cannot even imagine, how, it was different before. But I think, we are all on this kind of journey, and we're having probably, many breakthroughs on that journey in our lives and transformations. But it's a path of growth, I think. But it's
I guess the intention is important. The intention that we have for ourselves is important. So we're having a direction to go. So that's important. So when you come, for example, you come to me for a session and I ask you, what would you like to work on? That's an intention you're setting. You would like to release the emotion. Said. So, and this, the intention for life, generally, whatever it is that we're setting out to do is very important.
Yeah. Interesting, because that's what I say before I teach a yoga class as well. Set your intention for the practice. And actually this morning I was getting up before a call to watch the sunrise and go for a swim at the beach. And I was also thinking before the sun rose, like the moment, before you see it, I was like, okay, what's my intention for this day? And I feel like, setting an intention is very powerful in general. And then it's also like I read that somewhere, like it doesn't really matter who you are, it matters who you want to be.
And I think there's a little bit of this fear that we have into becoming a new person. So, or at least I'll speak for myself. There was this fear of becoming a new person. So maybe like a fear of judgment of others, so you want to become a new person, but you feel, okay, but if I change, how are people going to look at me? And, am I showing off, or how to, there's a lot of stuff around moving into the new, especially into a new personality, into a new person, into a new way of being when it comes to people that we're so used to having in our life. And so when we begin this journey with said intention, we will notice that people fall away. And that can be scary and it can be very upsetting, but it's so necessary so that new people can come into your life and you're giving space for the new.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. But thinking, because you're a very intuitive person and you taught me some things about intuition as well, and how you can kind of trust your body just kind of physically. So which was part of our first emotion code session. So I was wondering, because I feel that's something also clients ask me a lot. Is there a way to know if you have like a feeling, if that's your intuition or if that's like your ego?
So the way I would say to that is the intuition makes you feel good. So, or it's a bit of a warning, and so it's something like, for example, don't forget your phone. Some thought will come up into your mind, and then you might ignore it. Then you'll realize you've forgotten your phone, when you're at the shops or whatever, and you realize, oh, my intuition was trying to tell me something. But I would say that the intuition makes you feel good, and the ego doesn't. We've all got this inbuilt mechanism within when we know when we're feeling good, and when we know when we're lying to ourselves. And lying to ourselves can make us feel good, but we generally know when we're doing that, when we're bypassing, when we're trying not to look at what's to be seen. And so the intuition will guide you into seeing what needs to be seen, but will also make you feel good. It will have an expansive feeling around it. Whereas the ego, you might, Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body, and so you'll feel a bit of a pinch when something happens with the ego. And that is when it's more likely to be coming from the ego mind, when we're feeling that sense of like retraction or something is not quite flowing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good explanation, I think. And then that's very accessible as well. You can just ask yourself, is that actually empowering me maybe to do something? Or like, is that a kind of call that you should bring this into the world? And then I feel like the ego often can be something like self-doubt, and actually, that voice kind of stopping you from doing what you're maybe supposed to do. Yeah.
Exactly. And usually the intuition is the first thought, the first thing that comes up. And then the judgment comes in, or the doubt comes in, or, oh, I can't do that. I've never done that before. Or I can't do that. I'm coming out of my comfort zone. And that's now the ego. That's the self, which is used to being there. And the intuition wants us to move forward.
Yeah.
So usually the intuition is the first thing. And then we have all the baggage that comes with it.
Yeah. And then coming back to happiness, it's like the ego doesn't want us to be happy. The ego wants us to survive, right?
Exactly. Yes. So some people say that it's we should be transcending the ego or leaving the ego behind. And I used to feel that way too, but I'm starting to see things a bit differently. I'm starting to see that the ego is actually a part of the self, and it's showing us our shadow self. And as long as we do not see our shadow self, we'll never feel or complete, we'll never be whole. So by looking at the shadow self and working on the shadow self, then suddenly we can integrate this part into ourself and become a whole person, become a complete person, not a dual person, light and dark, but now it's all in the one. And so the ego, again, is just this narrative and seeing things in a different way, the perspective. So the ego can actually be seen as your friend as long as you're working with it. As long as we're working with the ego, we can use the ego as a friend, just to see, oh, it's the ego, that's part of my shadow. Let me look at this shadow. What do I need to work on here? Boom, let's integrate, and we move forward. So it's not so much about let's leave the ego behind, but let's work with the ego. Let's be collaborators in this journey.
Yeah, very good. So be aware of it, and then kind of befriend it and accept it as well, and not trying to, it's the same probably like with emotions. It's just like when we're constantly trying to push them away or not feel them, then it's actually when they kind of build up. And that's probably the same with the ego as well. If we like stop listening, then it will stop, like keep telling us even more what we should do or shouldn't do. Or we actually invite it and be like, okay, thank you for reminding me, but right now I don't need you anymore, fear. So you can go away. Then that's actually moving forward. Yeah.
Very good. And one thing about this fear thing I'd like to add on to that, there's a gentleman called Carl Cease on YouTube, and I've recently started watching him. I think I sent you a link. And he had one of his videos where he was talking about this deep-seated fear that we're feeling collectively in the world.
Yeah.
Just because we don't know where we're heading into the unknown. There's a lot of fear occurring at this moment in time. And how he put it is that what's happening is if we picture a car which is being pulled out of water, so it's sinking in the water and it's being pulled out by a crane, got all this water pouring out of it, emptying out as it's being pulled out. And what's currently happening now in this world, in this way that we're living, is this fear is dripping out of us now.
Wow.
So we're in the process of completely shedding the past, completely shedding the fear, and that's why it's coming up for us in these times. We're feeling it, so it's important to face it. And it's just doing this dripping away so that we can become completely light, completely empty vessels for what is to come next.
Wow, that's very nice.
Yeah,
to put that in the show notes as well. And then also, I guess like to end the interview, I usually ask for a book recommendation, but I think you gave us already a very good one, which changed your life. So I will add that. But is there another one you would like to recommend for people to read? I would
very much like to recommend Dr. Joe Dispenza. Whichever book you pick up of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I would highly recommend going into him, looking into his teachings, whichever book resonates with you.
Yeah, amazing. I love him too. Okay, very good. So nice seeing you and talking to you, and very, very inspirational. Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights and all your knowledge, and also for spreading the love. And I feel like this is how I met you, and I can really feel that you are on this journey also of like helping people. So I think you finding yourself, but you're also definitely here in the world as we all are, but maybe a little further on that journey that you really helping people, making a difference in other people's lives. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Also, thank you for having me on here. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for spreading your light, spreading your voice, spreading your expression. So much needed today, more than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Happiness Safari podcast. I have some exciting news for you. On the 1st of January, we are starting our 30-day happiness challenge. You will receive every day a short task which will help you to reflect, grow, learn, reach your goals, and live a happier life. Please don't miss it and start your year in the most happy and positive way. All you have to do is to follow me on Instagram at @NadineAnneYoga and follow the instructions there. Also in March, I'm hosting a yoga and coaching retreat in Diani Beach, Kenya, one of the most beautiful places in the world where you can relax, unwind, detox, practice yoga, meditation, and get some coaching input from me as well. It will be a week full of transformation. There are still a couple of places left. For more information, visit my website happiness-safari.com. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please go to iTunes and leave me a 5-star rating and a review. That would make me truly happy. For more information about me, the podcast, the retreat, how to connect with me on social media, or to find out more about one-on-one coaching, I will put all the links in the show notes for you. Don't forget, happiness is the only thing which doubles when you share it, so please share the podcast with your friends and help me to make the world a happier place. Be you, be free, be happy. Talk to you soon.